A couple interesting things from Lavonte David. I think one was that, he was very bluntly honest with himself when asked about, what he wants to improve on and where he wants to get better, even being a veteran so late in the game, the NFL. And this is something you talked about a little bit during this season too, Scott, is that you want to see some more splash plays from Lavonte David. And Lavonte didn't specifically say that he wanted to make splash plays, but one of the key things that he's really focusing on for this season when he spoke with us was getting those tackles for loss. And in most cases, especially when it's a linebacker, it is a splash play, which is why Lavonte didn't say it, but I'm going to say it for him.
Yeah.
So I thought Lavonte being that bluntly honest so early in the year when, he's going to get more of these questions when training camp comes around,
Right.
for him to give a real self-evaluation of, yeah, I could have been better, I thought was really big coming from him.
Yeah, it was. I just did a story posted to pewterreport.com about those quotes. And the interesting thing is when you look at Lavonte David, the first thing that jumps off the page when you look at last year for him is those lack of splash plays. Now, he did have a pair of sacks, right? He had 1.5 in 2020. He had 2 last year. And he did force 2 fumbles in the regular season, and he had a fumble recovery, added another key fumble recovery in that Rams game that helped get the Buccaneers back in it. But the 2 things that really jump out, statistically speaking, Matt, 97 tackles. That's only the second time that Lavonte David has not recorded 100 tackles or more in a season. He had 117 last year. In 2020. In 2019, 123. The year before that, 120. So 97. That's quite a bit of a fall off there. Then he also mentioned the tackles for loss. He's a downhill player, likes to make plays behind the line of scrimmage. Got a couple sacks, but only 5 tackles for loss, Matt. That is a career low for him. The fewest he's had in any season prior to that was just 8 in 2017. But he had 12 in the Bucs Super Bowl run in 2020. And this is a player in Lavonte David that has averaged 14 tackles for loss per season. So when you only get 5, you can see why Lavonte David is not happy with his level of play when it comes to those splash plays and really not playing up to his standards.
Right. And I think we've just become so accustomed to Lavonte being such a consistent player, the Rock of Gibraltar, the top guy on this team, that when he doesn't pretty much be Superman out there, I think it becomes a little bit of surprise for everyone. Now, I think we have to understand too, one, Lavonte is getting a little bit older. I'm not saying that he's
31.
Yeah, I'm not saying that he's a bad player by any means.
Right.
And also, he was hampered by a really bad injury last year, which he spoke about as well too.
He was 60% in the playoffs when he returned.
Right. That's what it was.
He missed 5 games last year, and that was the most he's ever missed in any season. If you remember, he sprained his ankle against the Miami Dolphins late in that game and then missed 2 games. It was the game at Philadelphia and then the home game against Chicago. Then he returned to the lineup. And then in that Saints game, everybody talks about Chris Godwin's injury, Mike Evans' hamstring injury, Leonard Fournette.
AB had an ankle, but it was really Lavonte David that really killed a lot of things for the Bucs.
Exactly. In that Saints game, that was another injury. Lavonte David at the very end sprained his foot. And he said that was a very serious foot sprain. If you remember, he was placed on injured reserve to end the season. So we missed the last 3 games of the regular season. Then came back for the playoffs, and he's not going to miss the playoffs, right? And I quote, he said, "No surgery, but it was a significant middle foot sprain, part of my Liz Frank. If it would have been torn completely, I probably would have had surgery and would have been out for 6 to 8 months. Luckily for me, it didn't get that far, but it was real significant. Throughout the playoffs, I was having a tough time too. I had to gut it out. It was the playoffs. I had to play. For the most part, I was probably about 60% out there playing, but now I'm up." And so that's one of those things that you see Lavonte David out there playoff games.
Just put him in the Ring of Honor now. Just put him in the Ring of Honor now.
He's playing at 60% on a Liz Frank injury, which that's a very painful injury right in the middle of your foot. And if that, it's either a ligament or a tendon. I'm not sure, but if one of those tendons or ligaments is injured, that's one thing. But if it's torn, like he said, he's looking at 6 to 8 months worth of surgery. As it stands right now, Lavonte David is rehabbing that injury. Will probably miss the OTAs and minicamp. He said, I should be able to go around training camp. So the good news there is we're hopeful to see Lavonte David back out there making those splash plays as early as the start of training camp.
Yeah, let's remember patience is a virtue. So when Lavonte's not out there for OTAs, let's not all freak out. Let's not all make
he
it
knows what he's doing.
such a big deal. Yeah, Lavonte's earned that right.